Well, look who it is. It's them dang old Patreons again. Alex Georgia said, what is the minimum loadout for your truck on a grindstone deployment? Tools, fuel, sustainment, etc. I'm wanting to set up my truck to join grindstone. Would you make a video explaining what you carry and why? Thanks. And I got 9 hearts on it. It's usually a pretty good indication. The number of hearts that a comment gets is usually an indication that more and more people are interested in it. So, and as I was making this list, because I have a list, it occurred to me that, and I know this from experience, but it occurred to me yet again that this list is very comparable to what one would want to have in a bug-out vehicle. So if you don't care about grindstone, or you're never coming on deployment, or you live too far away, or Bear, I just can't, that's fine. Think about this from the context of a bug-out vehicle, okay? Sorry, had to make a note. So from the concept of a bug-out vehicle / going on a grindstone deployment, because grindstone operates in austere environments where there is no electricity, there is no fuel, there is no logistics, there is no rule of law, there is no commo. The only intel we have is the intel we develop ourselves. There is no medical. There's none of that. The place has been destroyed, right? So it's a prepper Shangri-La if you want some pressure and accountability for training in your preparedness journey, with the added benefit of you're being a blessing to other people at the same time. So, grindstone deployment. And I'm going to move fairly quickly because a lot of this stuff is self-explanatory, and this is a long list. There, you can screenshot right there. So now you have the list. Okay? Boom, screenshot. You should have your EDC on you. Always, everyday carry. I have a pistol, a reload, a tourniquet, a flashlight, a knife, a folding knife, a pen, a watch on me at all times. Like, if I'm awake, that's what I'm carrying. If I'm going to the gym, that's what I have shoved into my pockets. Okay? You should have your EDC, plus your phone, whatever phone you may have. Charging cables. It amazes me how many people have a phone but don't have a charging cable. Or I don't have a box for a wall. Do you have a box for a wall? Charging cables and charged battery packs. I have multiple 20 to 40,000 milliwatt hour, MAH, aka mAh, 20 to 40,000 watt milliamp hour battery packs. I take 3 of them at all times in my truck and in my ruck. Here's my ruck right here. Sasquatch gear ruck. So they're in there. Now, I dual wield iPhones. I have one I'm talking to you on right now, and I have another one that I use for personal. So I may need more battery than you might need. But also, there's no electricity. So finding a spot to charge your phone, you're either most of the time going to be charging in your vehicle or charging off of battery packs for about the first 3 to 7 days until we get a FOB established, forward operating base. And Yah has always smiled on us. We've always found one, and some of them have been more glamorous than others. We've set up in everything from a gas station parking lot to firehouses and county fairgrounds. So it just depends. Whatever we can find, that's what we can find. We've been in half-destroyed churches with no electricity. Also, no electricity means no heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Okay, so bear that in mind. You should have your rucksack, and your rucksack should be set up for 7 days. 7 days. Laundry is usually something that we're able to accomplish within about a week of being on site. Now, I take a pair of pants and then a spare pair of pants. I don't need 7 days worth of pants. Pair of pants, spare pair of pants. Like 10 pairs of socks, 6-ish pairs of underwear, a handful of t-shirts, and then weather layers. This is where most people get jammed up, is weather layers. It could be cold, in which case you should have the ability to layer a t-shirt and a long sleeve shirt or a flannel and a hoodie and then a winter coat, right? And you can take those layers on and off as you go. Same thing with your legs. If it's winter, and tornadoes tend to happen October-ish through March-ish, depends. So it's usually winter-ish, okay, when warm air collides with cold air, tornado. And hurricanes tend to happen in the fall, so it can be cold where you're at. So for your legs, long-handled underwear, synthetic or wool, whatever you're into, then sturdy pants, and then possibly even a Gore-Tex layer to go over the top of that. Okay, but you want a weather layer, something that's going to shed the water, not collect the water. Okay, because if you get wet, you're going to get cold. If you get wet and cold, you could get hypothermic, and at a minimum, you're going to be distracted. You could get injured because, again, this is an austere environment. Okay, so a ruck with 7 days worth of clothes and stuff in it. You should have some type of shelter, whether this is however you want to sleep. If you want to bring a tent and a cot and a foam pad for your cot and a sleeping bag and a wool blanket and a pillow, that's fine. If you're going to rough it and throw your Ranger roll under a poncho, that's fine. Whatever you want to sleep in. So some type of shelter, preferably one that will stop wind and rain, because again, it's winter, and give you a modicum of modesty, so if you need to change or whatever. So tent and some type of sleep kit, ground pad and sleeping bag, all the way up to, glamping, whatever you prefer. And I'll tell you, for long deployments, if you're going to be there for a long period of time, don't cheap out on the sleep kit. Yeah, I can rough it for several days. I have roughed it for several days. Sleep in the truck, sleep on a ground pad, sleep on top of the sleeping bag covered in a wool blanket underneath a half of a poncho, whatever. You can do that, but sleep is 100% a combat multiplier, and you're going to need as much sleep as you can get, because the opportunities for sleep, especially within the first 3 days or so, are few and far between. And so if you're getting bad sleep because you decided to go minimal on your sleep kit, it's going to negatively impact your ability to perform. So I now trend more towards the glamping style. I have a cot. I have a 3-inch foam mattress topper that I lay on top of the cot, a couple of pillows, wool blanket, and a sleeping bag so that I sleep well. Also, I've had a back injury for the last 22 years. And yeah, I can sleep on the cold, hard ground, but my back doesn't love that, which makes me less effective the following day. So while it seems like you could cheap out on the sleep kit, don't. Like, if you have the ability to bring more for sleep kit, you should, and nobody's going to turn their nose up at you, because we all recognize the importance of sleep. Food and water for 7 days. Now again, typically within a week we have a fob set up, we have a field kitchen going, we're beginning to make hot meals. But I say 7 days because it can take up to that long before we have food and water figured out. Now, hurricanes and tornadoes are different. With the tornado, generally speaking, the disaster is limited to a very finite area. And tornadoes are weird because on one side of the street, everything's destroyed. On the other side of the street, looks like nothing ever happened. So in a tornado, we can oftentimes find the stuff that we need close, local. One half of the town might be gone, the other half of the town's still there and still has water, sewer, electricity, etc. And so if we need cases of water, we can usually go to Walmart and get them, or food, or whatever, Sam's Club, whatever we can find. It's not that far away, typically, with a tornado. Hurricanes are different. Hurricane Michael in Panama City, Florida, was 88 miles wide. You don't just go to the other side of town to get stuff. There's no stuff to get. And because of the size of that storm, significantly more, by an order of magnitude or two, more people are competing for those limited resources in that area, which means you only have what you bring in, which also gets to fuel. You should have fuel to self-support for up to a week if you can, whether this is 5-gallon gas cans that you've got. Like, I keep 3 or 4 gas cans on my truck at all times, preferably 4. I have 3 currently because there's a dude broken down on the side of the road. He was out of gas, and I just gave him the can. I was like, here you go. He goes, I'll fill it up and bring it back to you. Well, that's very kind of you. I don't want you knowing where I live. Just take the gas can, homie. It's $20. Mazel tov. So I'm down to 3. But that gives me 20 gallons of fuel on my truck. So food and water for 7 days for you and whoever you're bringing to be able to self-support. MREs, Mountain House, granola bars, And don't skimp on the calories. Again, you're going to need them to power the machine that's doing the work. Same thing with water. You're going to want a minimum of a gallon of water per day, preferably 2 gallons of water per day. 1.5 for drinking, and the rest for food prep. And baby wipes or dude wipes go a long way here for sanitation as well. Because until we find a fob where we can wash our dirty bodies, we're going to be taking horse baths, which gets back to having some type of shelter that affords you a modicum of modesty. You should have at a minimum 2 radios, pre-programmed, and chargers for them. And you should have a way to interface those chargers with whatever power source you have. I have a 750 watt inverter in my truck that has 2 110 AC plugs in it that I can plug 2 chargers into to charge my radios or whatever else I want to. As long as it doesn't exceed 750 watts, I'm good. So if you have one of those little Honda Quiet 2,000 watt generators or whatever, that's fine. It's more fuel you're burning, but that's fine. But radios pre-programmed and a way to charge them. We will typically run GMRS, FRS, and MERS channels. You may need a Mars mod or whatever, that way outside the scope of this video, but you need 2 radios because 2 is 1, 1 is none, and chargers. And if you have spare batteries, that's cool, because while your radios are off during the day, you can have spare batteries on the charger during the day and then swap out at night. You should have a robust medical kit at a minimum of BareFac and the skills to use it. If you have a medical specialty, if you're EMTB, EMTA, paramedic, or more than that, a doctor, tactical medical professional, former 18 Delta, a SARC, whatever, even EMR. So you have more specialty in the medical industry, you should bring more medical stuff because we might need your skills. Probably not for us, praise Yah, not for us, but for people in the affected area. So if you have a medical specialty, bring more medical stuff. We'll get into specialty equipment in a moment. But you should have a med kit for you, individual first aid kit, and the skills to use it. You should have sturdy boots, boots that you can be on your feet in all day, boots that aren't going to get your feet wet. Sturdy boots, that's up to you, what you use. It's entirely up to you. I've had muck boots, logging boots, snake boots, hiking boots, whatever. It doesn't matter. A safety vest. A safety vest. Because you will be working around heavy equipment, you will be working in roadways, and we need to see you. Never assume the heavy equipment can see you. Never assume the people driving on the road can see you. Most of the time, they can't. They don't. And so safety vest, high vis, helps with that. I trend in the green direction rather than the orange direction, but whatever floats your boat. A notebook and pen. I like a small notebook that'll fit in a pocket and a pen, because you're going to be talking with people, you're going to be taking down information, and you want to be able to refer back to it. So take notes. It's important, especially when we're doing search and rescue or medical calls, taking patient history, or even identifying targets when we go out and do recon as to where we're going to deploy our SAW teams, our heavy equipment crews, or who needs meals, how many meals, do they have any food allergies, etc. Write all that stuff down. PPE, personal protective equipment. Eyes, clear, because sometimes we work at night. And if you want shaded, smoke-colored, whatever, safety glasses. Hearing protection for your ears. If you're running a saw, you should have a sawyer's helmet, a logging helmet with built-in earmuffs. If you don't, the same muffs you take to the range will be fine for deployment. And if not that, then foamies. The problem with foamies is they're consumable, and sooner or later they take up more space, cost more money, and you won't have them when you need them. So, and then hands, good gloves, mechanics gloves, leather gloves, deerskin gloves, whatever you want to work in, good gloves, because our hands are the #1 tools we use to interface with our environment. And if you jack these up, you will not be effective on target. And then, to PPE, if you're on a saw crew, having the appropriate personal protective equipment to operate a chainsaw, chaps, helmet, feller's belt or harness, whatever. But PPE. Flashlights, multiple, because 2 is 1, 1 is none, and spare batteries. And I've talked before about these cool rechargeable batteries and flashlights. They're cool until they're not charged. And if you forget to charge them, or the charge that you put on the flashlight can't keep up with your usage, and make no mistake, especially the first 2-3 days, we do a lot of operating at night. You're going to very quickly regret that rechargeable battery. Ask me how I know. A headlamp is also incredibly useful. I have a $20 headlamp. It's an Energizer brand headlamp. It runs on, I think it's 2 or 3 AAA batteries. It might be 3 AAA batteries. And that thing has worked wonders for me. It just hasn't broken. It lives in my truck. Almost all this lives in my truck and ruck. Right? If I grab my ruck and I hop in the truck, I have all these things. So flashlights, plural, headlamp, spare batteries. And if you don't have spare batteries, your light doesn't take spare batteries. You must have a way to charge it and keep it charged. You must. OTC and prescription meds. If you're on any prescription meds, you have to bring them with you. You probably will not be able to just run to the pharmacy and get them refilled. So bring them with you. They should be in your ruck. OTC meds, Motrin, aspirin, the technical name escapes me right now, but antihistamines, etc., things of that nature. Hygiene kit and a towel, toothbrush, toothpaste, nail clippers, if you comb or brush your hair, whatever, dude wipes or baby wipes, and antiperspirant, and let's see, what else? I know I'm missing some stuff. The stuff you need to clean your body every day. Toothbrush, toothpaste being at the top of the list. And a towel. Because again, in many cases, we don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing. So I have a very large towel. Lives in my rucksack. Okay. Flops and or bath shoes. Because usually at the end of the day, especially once we have a flop, you're going to want to take your boots off. And you're probably going to want to take a shower if we have the shower up and running. And so having flip-flops or bath shoes or anything else like that, recommended. You may consider a swimsuit. And the reason I say this is an inordinate number of people get baptized when we're on mission. We don't plan for that. It's the Father's will. But we've lost count how many people we baptized while being on mission. And so we like to do that in living water if we can find it. And we've always been blessed to be able to find a river or a creek or a stream or a pond or a lake or a whatever. And so you might consider a swimsuit. This one, a long gun and a system to feed it. I bring my 16-inch AR primary arms 1-8. And then my Velocity Systems chest rig with it. And on the chest rig, I've got a radio and a blowout kit and a knife and a 22 caliber pistol and a spare mag and 2 9mm spare magazines and 4 AR magazines and I don't remember what else. Oh, some boo-boo stuff and foot care stuff. Foot care is important, by the way. Boo-boo stuff and foot care stuff on the chest rig. Now, when we're on deployment, we stay low vis, okay? But we're also us. And the world could get screwed at any time, and I want to be able to lay my hands on a rifle if I need it. I have, rarely do we have to pull long guns on deployment. It's rare. It doesn't mean it hasn't happened, especially in some of the neighborhoods we've operated in where at night there is active looting going on. And so if there's active looting going on and we're at night and we don't have, or even sometimes when we do have our generator/light towers set up because you know, the light shines into the darkness and the darkness comprehendeth it not. It's still nice to have some trusted men with long guns in the shadows that should something get stupid, weapons light, you can light them up, which should be on your rifle, a weapons light, a way to aim it, whatever you're into, preferably more magnification the better, and a 2-point sling. That's what you need. You don't need a PEC 15. You don't need a suppressor. You don't need all the cool guy stuff. If you want it, that's fine. If that's how your rifle's set up, that's fine. But you don't need those things. So a long gun and a system to keep it fed. But the vast majority of times, we will stay low visibility. goes back to EDC. And if you're fondling or playing with your long guns and your systems without my permission, you will be asked to leave. Okay? So we're not here to play militia, we're here to bless people and learn in the process. Chainsaws. Okay? If you have a chainsaw and you know how to use it, feel free to bring it. You'll probably get to use it because generally speaking, there's trees down everywhere and that's a big part of what we do. I bring a minimum of 2 spare chains per saw. So if you have a saw that takes a 20-inch bar and a saw that takes a 25-inch bar, then you need an additional 2, not including the one on the saw, 20-inch, and an additional 2 25-inch. Along with chainsaws, you need all the chainsaw things. So spare chains, fuel. I like pre-mixed fuel in the cans because they're very easy. You can use mixed fuel in a gas can rather than those 1-gallon oil cans. But when it's in the 1-gallon oil can, if I tell somebody, go get the 1-gallon oil can off of my truck that says mixed fuel on it, that's way easier than get the gas can, of which there are several. And if they bring me straight fuel or they put straight fuel in the saw, it's destroyed. The saw's destroyed. So I like the pre-mixed fuel in the 1-gallon cans. Bar oil, you will need bar oil. Files, the appropriately sized files for your chains. Maybe a spare spark plug, so forth and so on. So chainsaws and all the things that go with the chainsaw. You can usually tell who knows how to run a saw based upon what they bring with the saw, because the saw is part of a system. Then maps, a GPS, and a compass. And if you can get maps of the area you're operating in, great. If you can't, at least have a road atlas or something that if you can get in and out, that if there's no cell phone coverage or GPS isn't working or whatever, maps, compass, GPS. I carry a handheld Garmin in my ruck. I have a big dash-mounted Garmin in my truck. I have maps for my state and all the states that touch it in my truck, as well as a national atlas in my truck. And then I have a compass on my chest rig that is in my truck. So those things are super useful. And then specialty equipment. So if you're a mechanic and you have mechanicking skills, this all gets back to your particular giftings, talents, and delights. If you're a mechanic, maybe bring some mechanics tools because we have trucks and heavy equipment and they tend to break down when we use them. If you're a cook or a chef, bring your cooking stuff, your spices and your knives and your, whatever, my spatula. I love this spatula. Yes, I'm looking at you, coal miner's daughter. Internet and commo. Like we've had people bring Starlink, a mobile Starlink. That's awesome because that gives us commo. If you're a commo person, and you have a cool commo rig, bring that, right? Because not everybody's going to be issued Motorola VTAC radios. We're particularly probably going to be using like Yaesus and even Baofeng's handhelds. But once the fob is established, having commo out from the fob to the teams that are in the field is very good. Recovery equipment, this can be tow straps, tow chains, ropes, rigging, etc., which comes in handy. A lot of times there's disabled vehicles, there's stuff in the road, stuff that has to get moved, so logging chains, straps, heavy-duty ropes, etc. If you have a winch on your truck, awesome. If you don't need to add one because of this video, but winches are super useful. If you have a background in search and rescue or medical, search and rescue equipment and medical equipment, this might be a stomp bag on your back. It could be a purpose-built search and rescue bag on your back or that lives in the truck, whatever. And then heavy equipment and trailers. So we use a lot of heavy equipment. We've been blessed that we have a lot of people in the Bear Nation who deploy with us who have heavy equipment. So if you bring heavy equipment, bring all the things that go with heavy equipment. Diesel fuel, and grease and a grease gun, etc. And the trailers to pull it. So I'm assuming if you're pulling a trailer, that you have the appropriate hitch and the wiring is good on the trailer and that the tow chains are all there and blah blah blah. But when one assumes, you make an ass out of you and me. So whether it's for a grindstone deployment or it's as a bug out vehicle, I think these things are applicable, or most of these things are applicable across the board. So hopefully this gives you something to think about, gives you something to plan towards. And I would encourage you, if you have these things, to build out the system. Your EDC should live on you. Your ruck should have most of these things in it. And then you need shelter and sleep kit, right? That's probably a separate system, whether it's a tote bin or a duffel bag or whatever. Then long gun and the system to feed it is probably a separate tote or duffel or whatever. And then saws or specialty equipment. All right, that's a different module. So you have these different modules, and you should load your vehicle with these different modules before before you deploy or before you bug out, to see how everything fits. Especially when you're taking multiple people, because my truck is hella big and hella strong and has hella room in it until you put 4 dudes and all their stuff in it, and then all of a sudden you've got a 1-ton truck that doesn't have 3 cubic inches of space left on it or in it, because every nook and cranny is filled with stuff. So again, these different modules, you have your EDC module that should live on you. Then you have your ruck module that should be, your clothing and your food and your OTC meds and all that other stuff. Your flops, etc. Probably your radios, right? That's in your rucksack. And then you have your, call it a security module, that's your long gun and the system that you feed it, and the cleaning kit that goes with it, and blah blah blah, spare batteries, etc., etc. You have that module. Then you've got your chainsaw module, saws, oil, files, mixed fuel, spare spark plug, etc. Then you've got your specialty equipment module, whether that's cooking or commo or internet or recovery equipment or search and rescue or medical or tools or whatever it might be. So, and then shelter and sleep kit module. So play with loading all those modules up, see how they fit in your vehicle before you bug out, before you deploy. It's a very eye-opening experience. And then once you have it coordinated as modules, you can make a pretty easy list, maybe even that lives in the glove box, that if I'm bugging out or if I'm deploying, I now have a checklist. Did I grab my ruck module? Did I grab my security module? Did I grab my saw module? Did I grab my tool module? Did I grab my search and rescue module? Do I have commo, etc., etc., etc.? Great question, Alex George. As always, interested in your comments down below. Bless y'all. Shalom.